Then I guess I'm going to switch over to hunting for hot peppers in Trinidad. We actually found a lot more than just hot peppers in Trinidad, but we did get some nice connections with hot peppers. This lady was so sweet. She was showing pigeon peas. This was a Rasta farmer who was on the rural coastal, one of the rural coastal sides of the island, farming on a hill, and he had like a permaculture setup, which was really fantastic to visit. We just learned a lot about that guy was really cool, and he had some pretty incredible stories, and his garden was the most picturesque thing I've ever seen. And this is another shot of us at one of the markets. Trinidad had like some of the best spices I've ever seen in my life. They were incredible, from nutmeg to something called tonka bean. Tonka bean is actually not legal in the United States because of a bizarre loophole. It has coumarin in it, which is dangerous for anyone taking blood thinners, but you'd have to take an absolutely absurd amount of this bean for it to ever actually affect you. So it's kind of like a loophole, illegal thing, but it's a really amazing flavor. It has a cherry vanilla flavor to it, so I was really excited about finding the tonka bean. I don't know how applicable it would be for us because it's very tropical, but maybe one day. Okay, so then I went to Europe last April, and this was a pretty amazing trip. I was going to what is believed to be the world's largest seed swap, and that was in Greece, and that's the top picture is from that seed swap in Greece, and that was in northern Greece on the border of Bulgaria. And then I went to the Netherlands and was looking for rare tulip bulbs because Jared told me he wanted to offer tulips and other bulbs, but what we have in America is kind of like a set list, and it's not always the most historically significant. I mean, it's just usually what the newest thing is being brought out, and it's not always, I don't know, we were thinking maybe we can find something that's a little bit more deep, that has a richer history, and I did find some really cool stuff, and there's lots of good pictures from that. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Netherlands portion of that trip, because I have lots of great photos. So first we went to the Keukenhof, which is the world's largest tulip garden. It's open for 6 weeks a year, and it gets something like several million visitors in that 6 weeks. It was the most crowded place I've ever been. It made Disneyland look like the remote Ozarks on a Tuesday afternoon. It was like so crowded. I cannot believe I managed to eke out these photos without people in them. That is a miracle. I was there very early, I think that's why. But we met the director of the Keukenhof. He was only 27 years old, and he managed a 9 million bulb planting a year. So he planted 9 million bulbs a year with a crew of 40. And he was an incredibly innovative garden designer. It was hard because I'm not that tall to get a perspective, but this is a river of crepe hyacinth that's been planted in the woods, and it had just the most incredible effect. It was really beautiful. We also went to the Tulip Museum in Amsterdam, which was a really comprehensive history of tulips, because obviously tulips are a big part of the history in the Netherlands. These are just more photos from the Keukenhof. This was actually at the gardens. The gardens are highly manicured, and they're a major point of pride in the Netherlands. Okay, this is me losing my mind because I was in a huge field of hyacinth, and if you've all smelled hyacinth before, you know how intoxicating that aroma is. So I was in a huge field, so I'm probably saying something like, oh my God, where am I right now? This is incredible. It really was astounding, and it is fields and fields and fields of bulbs as far as the eye could see, because the Netherlands is a major producer of bulbs, especially this area. I was in the Bollen Streak, which is basically the bulb area of the Netherlands. It's this one strip of, I think in the coastal area. Lissa was the town that we were in. It's all bulbs, the whole community, everything is revolving around bulbs. Major bulb economy. Here's nice up close of something at the Keukenhof that I loved. This was a great variety, and they did a lot of really nice mixed plantings. We learned a lot about, they call it lasagna plantings, but they would do several varying depths of different bulbs that bloom either at the same time or at different times, and it was very innovative. And then, there we go. That was another really nice display. And I apologize that these photos are really zoomed in, but that's like because there were thousands of people to work around, so it was really hard to photograph without getting lots of people in the shot. All right, so this was when we hit jackpot in the Netherlands. We met this man, Eric Breed. He is a rare tulip. He's a tulip historian and rare bulb adventurer. This man was kidnapped briefly looking for rare snowdrops in the country of Georgia in the 1980s. He was returned unharmed, but he had some crazy stories. He went to Kazakhstan and found wild tulips, which apparently he had been the first person in many, many decades to make that trip. He actually said he had to get on a horse, and he had never ridden a horse in his life, and he had to ride a horse for like all day to get to this remote valley to find wild tulips, and they are scented, and he was growing them, and I got to smell them, and it was so cool. He wrote a book about his experiences, and it is just phenomenal. He's been to some incredible places, and he is a wild tulip hunter, I guess you would say. And he's I think he was at least 3 or 4 generations of tulip bulb farming and growing and breeding. So he does breeding, but he's really more of a collector, and this was the kind of bulbs with depth that we were looking for. They had historical significance. He showed us, you know, he had the specimen, this is exactly the kind of tulip, this is the exact variety that set off the certain chain of events during the, what is it called, Tulip Mania in the Netherlands. You guys all know about Tulip Mania in the Netherlands? Mixed, okay, yeah, basically it was an explosion of popularity of tulips in the Netherlands, and basically at one point tulip bulbs were worth just about as much as a home, and things got really crazy, and then the bubble crashed. And that's a very abridged version, because I don't want to spend too much time talking about it, but he taught us all about the history of tulips. My video won't play, unfortunately, but I do have a little video where I'm interviewing him, and he's talking about the history of certain tulips. So as I was saying before, you see these vast fields of the same bulb, because it's a tulip production area where we were at. And then we find Eric Breed and his fields have a different variety every 2 feet, because he is a true collector. He wanted a little bit of everything, and he had stories for everything. So it was an incredible day to catch him on his farm, because he was giving us all kinds of stories and histories, and everything was in bloom, and we saw everything from the ancient tulips, the wild tulips he found, scented tulips, and there were also incredible paper whites, daffodils, bulbs. So we will be working with him hopefully in the future to make some of these really fun varieties available to the public, and that's in the works, and I'm very excited. So that is Eric Breed right there, and pretty typical Dutch guy. He's like 9 feet tall, and you know, he was very passionate about tulips. And I think the tulip on the the white tulip is the scented one, and the tulip on the bottom is the very ancient tulip.